And welcome to the Planning Committee. And a good welcome to a new member, Councillor Malcolm Longley. He is a member of the Planning Committee, but he won't be taking part in votes tonight because he's got to go through a bit of training first, but he's here to observe, see how it's all done, so don't pull on. Right, minutes of the last meeting. Is it your wish I sign this correct record, please? Yes. Agreed? Agreed, Chair. Thank you. Thanks very much. Sorry? Oh yeah, this next apologies, please. You all know that Colin's not very well in hospital. We wish him speedy recovery. Right, a few bits of housekeeping. I'm sure you've heard of them all before, but if the fire alarm bell rings, please go out the way you came in as orderly as possible, because it won't be a practice. Please switch your mobile devices to silent, because if they go off, it'll cost you £10 for the chairman's charity. If it makes a really loud noise, we might be able to squeeze a bit more into it. The proceedings are being recorded. Speakers will have 3 minutes, and after that you'll hear a tone to wind up. And that's the only opportunity to speak, so I'm sure you're not going to, but don't interrupt during the rest of the debate. No clapping, hissing, booing, cheering, standing up and waving your arms. Again, I'm sure you don't look as if you're going to. You'll see officers talking while you're talking, which looks exceedingly bad manners. They are talking so that they can give the answer to the points you're raising. So yes, you will see them. Updates on performance, there's nothing at this moment to update, is there? But when it is, it'll be sent to all members. Thank you. Right, members' interest. Right, disclosable? None? Party whipping arrangements? No. Thank you. Members of the public, that means together we don't get together as political groups or any groups to decide how we're going to vote beforehand. We listen to everything, then vote. Right, there are no applications withdrawn. And we go on to the first application, which is number 1205 in Halligan.
Thanks, Chairman. As you see from the location plan, the property comprises a traditional farmhouse with a range of traditional outbuildings sitting on the eastern side of the Halligan Conservation Area. The application proposes a number of elements. One is an extension to the farmhouse itself. The other elements involve the conversion, or partial conversion of some of the outbuildings. One to create a self-contained ancillary annex. The other to create four self-contained or 4 holiday nets, and a further conversion to create an office. The proposal itself has been the subject of consultations with the Conservation Officer, Halligan Parish meeting, and the local highway authority. You'll see from the report that officers are satisfied that as a result of negotiations with the applicants, the proposed development is acceptable in terms of its impact on the conservation area. The only outstanding element is with respect to concerns raised by the highway authority in wanting the access onto the main road altered. You'll see from the photographs when we come to them that our view is the access should remain as it currently is in the interests of preserving the appearance and character of the conservation area. That said, the amendments have allowed for sufficient passing places within the site to accommodate any traffic that may come to and from the site as a result of the proposed development. Accordingly, Chairman, we are recommending the application be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. We have one speaker on this road, the applicant. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. On behalf of myself and my client, I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak in favour of the application for the extension to Mr and Mrs Ringer's home and the conversion and renovation works to the barns at Lean House, Halligan. My clients have lived in the property for 2 years, and in this time they have carefully considered how to sympathetically extend, renovate and preserve the property. The house in its current state is not functioning for the family, and it needs significant investment to secure the existing structure and fabric. With 3 sons, the bedroom accommodation is not adequate and the layout is not functional, with rooms leading off rooms, in one case a bedroom accessed through the family bathroom. Leam House sits within a large plot on the edge of the village, within the conservation area. The topography of the land is such that the house is largely hidden from the neighbouring properties and the conservation area. You can see from the photos flashing through behind me, the barns are currently disused and will not function as farm buildings due to the changes in farming methods and machinery. The proposed holiday lets will give a new lease of life to these buildings and secure the structures. We have been trying to work with the conservation officers since last July, and this has now got us to the stage where they are not objecting to the proposals and supporting them. The works of the barns have been straightforward to deal with, but we have worked more closely with the planning officer and conservation officer to create a design they can support for the house extension. Designs of this nature are both open to interpretation and subjective. From day one, we have endeavoured to design the home to reflect the surrounding area in both scale and mass, which we feel we've achieved with the proposed scheme. My clients wish to renovate and extend their property utilising high quality materials, in keeping with the existing property and wider context. The intention of the proposed works is to create a home that the Ringer family can be proud of, and one that will not only function for my client, but also for future generations and residents, preserving and enhancing the existing dwelling and setting. We feel the proposals suitably reflect the local vernacular with no detrimental impact to the conservation area, and we therefore ask the committee to support and approve this application in line with the planning officer's recommendation for approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Local member, Councillor Patchett, I think it'll be.
Yes, that is me, certainly, Chairman. Good evening. Okay, well, first of all, I agree with officers with regards to the entrance to the remain, and I agree with the conservation officer as well. It's a lovely open aspect and a lovely pair of piers and gates, as you can see, and I think all of the village and everybody else would quite like to see that. And I'm quite glad that the passing space has now been put inside the gate, so that highways can be reasonably happy, but not entirely happy, I guess. With regards to materials, it says in one part that there's going to be tin roof on some of it. I don't know whether that's been amended in the later papers, but I think the continued use of the stone and slate roof for the rest of the buildings are, which would be quite good and should be followed up with in conditions. I think that the withdrawal of permitted development rights should be added to this particular barn and development, and I think that the issue of the ownership remaining with the current owner, or with the owners of the main house and the holiday lets should be. I know I can see that that's in the conditions, but I think that's also an important thing with this application. There's definitely a need for smaller accommodation within housing and the surrounding area. There's been a lot of work gone on with this application over the past period of time. We as ward members of Woodford Ward always try to support business and ventures, and I have absolutely no problem in recommending that, in fact making a proposal that this application be approved, Chairman. That's my officer's advice.
That's a proposition.
Yes.
You have a second. Councillor Frenchman. And you'd like to speak as well?
I just really want to ask you a question. I noticed it says for holiday lets. Does that mean if somebody wanted to move in for a year, that's not allowed, or is holiday lets defined as something?
Through you, Chairman, the conditions 8, 9 and 10 seek to restrict the occupation. Number 8 is holiday let accommodation will be occupied no more than not as a main residence. Number 9 is the unit should be occupied for no more than 28 days. And number 10 requires the owner to maintain a register, which should be available to the local planning authority to inspect should the...
I'm sorry, I didn't express myself very well. I meant, is that statutory or is that just our conditions? You know, is there an accepted description of what a holiday let is?
It's our conditions in this circumstance.
Sorry.
It's our conditions in this.
Okay, thank you, that's fine. That's all I wanted to ask.
Right. Any other comments? Is there any comments you want to make to the removal of PD rights? No?
No, Chairman.
Okay. Right, we've got a proposal, anything anybody else wishes to speak, that the application be approved subject to the PD rights being removed.
Is that subject, Chairman, just where I ask her, is this proposition subject to the PD rights being removed or not?
As I understood it, Chairman, the proposition was to be going up to the rights. That was
Yes, but he added, he did add the PD rights as well. That's the point I made.
Mainly because the village would like to keep an eye on and have a say in whatever future development might go ahead.
Yeah,
Certainly, through you, Chairman, certainly it's appropriate. We could look at imposing conditions to require the development to be carried out strictly in accordance with the approved drawings and no further alterations, etc. to be made. Bearing in mind that applicants do have the right to appeal against any conditions that they feel are unnecessary, unreasonable, or don't meet the tests. But if members wish to simply have the development built as it's before you, then the condition would seek to do that.
do you wish to pursue that one, Councillor
Yes,
President?
please, Chairman.
And the seconder is happy with that?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so you know what you're voting on. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. The application is approved, subject to PD rights being removed. Yeah. And the next application is 0089 and is in Unum. It's not a Unum, because I've flipped 2 pages over. It's in Welford and I very well know it as well. 0020. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. Before I start, I'll draw members' attention to the description. Just for the avoidance of doubt, this is an application for approval of reserved matters pursuant to the outline application DA 2014-0824. So, as you'll see in the report, the principle of development has been established on the site. What is before members tonight is the details of the siting, design, appearance and layout of the development. In our views, the proposals are acceptable in terms of meeting council standards, and accordingly we're recommending the application be approved, Chairman.
Thank you, Aaron. We have a few speakers on this one, 3. The first one is Mr. Evans, who's against the application.
You ready?
Yes, you have 3 minutes now.
Okay, thank you. My name is Martin Evans and I'm a resident on Newlands Road. I'm an environmental scientist and I've been doing that for 25 years. So I've got quite a bit of experience of what's going on. It looks to me in these reserved matters that there is absolutely no management plan for the next phase of construction with regards to working hours and noisy work. Also, there is no fencing, no provision for fencing to protect the hedges around the sides of the site. Despite the site is already being occupied by contractors, and I'm pretty sure they shouldn't be in there at the moment. No archaeology is being carried out, and stripping of topsoil has already started to commence. My major fear here is that the archaeology could have been wiped out already, and this is not acceptable and also illegal. There is also heavy equipment and construction materials stored on this stripped area, and I know that the archaeology has not been done on this phase because there is also 4,000 tonnes of topsoil on top of it, so they would not be able to do it. And that has been there since day 1, 2015. The soil heap is huge and is causing a lot of dust from my friend Bob who is a lovely man trying to enjoy his retirement, and all the other residents along Newlands Road. Our cars and our houses are being covered with dust when the wind blows from this soil heap. This is also the air that we have to breathe. I did suggest at the very beginning that Mears Construction may want to grass seed this big soil heap, but they chose to ignore my suggestion. I asked the question to the planning committee, do Mears have permission to keep this 4,000 tonnes of topsoil on this site, which they have not got planning permission for. Also next to poor old Bob's house is a 300-tonne rubbish heap, which includes construction waste and biodegradable materials such as wood and the hedgerows that they cut down in phase 1. It is only about 10 paces away from his house. The toe of the rubbish heap is hard up against the boundary and is already encroaching into the hedgerows. On phase 1, the Welford community had suffered a lot of damage to the roots of trees and hedges, which had been dug up without any consideration to the nesting bird seasons, i.e. they were dug up and destroyed in between February and September. This caused a lot of distress from my friend Matthew, who also lives on Newlands Road. We don't want phase 2 to go down the same route as phase 1, so please could you ensure that all of the points I've raised are actioned and before any work commences are included on the planning permission, just like on the original phase 1 reserved matters. The service that we are getting from the planning officer is almost zero. How is she not spotting these blunders from the contractors? I would like to suggest that action needs to be taken by a more senior officer before any permissions are given to the contractor who are not managing this scheme properly.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Mr. Brotherton from the Parish Council.
Thank you, Chairman. Do need to point out that all reports mention that this and stage 1 are an open countryside. The only reason for approval was that the lack of a 5-year land supply at the time, which is fine, but I do think that means it's incumbent on the local planning officer to go the extra mile to help out to ensure the design is suitable to the village. This site, as you've seen from there with the bank, is 1.5 metres above road level, far more prominent than the stage 1. The trees on the frontage are not inside the red line site and therefore have no protection. The other point raised, or not mentioned in the report by the planning officer, is that they are all deciduous, trees and hedge, so therefore there is no screening between October, March and April. Parish Council disagrees that the design of stage 1 was suitable for a village, and we take the same attitude to this site for the reasons we set out on the front, which I won't go through there. They're all quite succinct on the front of the report. The photos show the construction of stage 1, particularly the eastern end, where I refer to it as a barrack block. It's a complete row of houses all the way down the access to the playing field. This is mirrored in phase 2. You can see it on there. It's a 40-metre hedge line, of which 32 metres are solid brick wall. Now that's not a village development at all. Notwithstanding the design issue, I hope members also consider the conditions as mentioned by Mr. Evans. There are no conditions on the outline and none have been set out on this projected reserve matters application. There is no management plan in place, no mention of work hours, no traffic movements have been taken into account, and no conditions regarding the removal of existing store heat. It's quite an omission, I think, in a residential area. I don't intend to take up any more of the committee's time, just like to consider all those points, and I certainly think do stay for the site requires a site visit. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Mr. Carpenter, who is the applicant.
Thank you very much, committee, for the opportunity to come and speak in support of the application. I'm the Managing Director of Mears New Homes, who have taken great care in the first phase to try and make sure it does actually act as a real beacon of good design, good material selection, and make sure that it does fit into a good village environment. I think we've gone out of our way to try and make sure that it doesn't sit and look like just another housing estate. We have worked with Parish Council to try and take on board everything they've done in phase 1, and we've taken on board all the comments from adjoining owners and from the Parish Council to try and modify the design, including changing levels, making sure we kept roof lines as low as we can to make sure that everything is taken care of, to make sure that it's a high quality scheme. Contrary to what you just heard, we have taken every step to make sure that all environmental criteria have been met, and we've abided by them strictly. And in fact, all the hedges have been protected during the currency of all work, and the same thing would happen on a second phase. In addition, we've carried out all necessary protective measures for wildlife and for trees and the environment. We do believe this will add a huge amount to the village. It adds important affordable housing, which is valuably needed, and is one that we think will actually add something to the village. And a lot of screening and protection has been made such that through most of the year it's very difficult to see what's actually going on there because it is so well protected from trees. We are, the topsoil storage heap on there is in accordance with all regulations, and the planners are in fully support of it. It will be moved June and July, so it will be taken away and removed. In addition, we have carried out the archaeological dig on phase 2. We have been asked to carry out some more works which will be carried out when the topsoil heap has been removed. So full archaeological protection has been provided. Journey remains are on site. And in fact, in support of that, when remains were found on the first phase, we've turned them into a real, into an actual focal point for the village, actually making a memorial to a Bronze Age circle that was found on it. So I'd like to propose that the application is supported, and we work closely with the planners to try and make sure it's a success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 2 local members, which one of you is going first? Councillor Walker?
Ladies first.
Well, actually, I would normally say you first, because she's the vice chairman and it would be better for you to go first.
Yeah, you know, I've looked through this. One of the things that was raised is this planning of works. I don't know whether that is is that a normal thing that we would include in there? Because although it wasn't mentioned in the papers as a concern from the parish council or any letters, it certainly was mentioned here. And I'd probably seek some advice is that we are ensuring that the convenience of the community is not being impacted by works and disruption on a Sabbath day or on etc. etc. I'm asking
Have you got any more questions to go with it? Or
yeah, I'm just asking, can that be included to secure the residents' quality of life?
Again, Chairman, with regard to the applications, the Reserve Matters application, the outline application did not include any conditions with respect to construction management plans. We have used such conditions in the past, and it's open to members to decide whether or not they wish to impose such a condition on the Reserve Matters. Again, as I pointed out to you, applicants, if they feel those such conditions are not reasonable or meet the tests, then they can appeal against them. And in respect of the tests, they have to be reasonable, necessary, enforceable, etc., etc. Government advice is very clear about imposing conditions where other regulations, legislation applies. With respect to the site, there is quite strong and probably more effective environmental health regulations that can be more effective in dealing with noise, unsociable hours of working, etc. That our environmental health colleagues can investigate. And indeed, environmental health visited the site yesterday. As far as I understand it, have not identified any breaches of environmental health regulations that would warrant formal action. I have to come back on the point about officers not investigating the site. I know for a fact that the officer concerned has been up there on numerous occasions and continues to investigate alleged breaches of planning control, as do the enforcement investigators. We have not identified such serious breaches of planning control that warrant formal enforcement action. And again, the government advice is to continue to negotiate where there are breaches of planning control rather than resorting to formal enforcement action. So you have a planning application that's before you, an application which is based on an outline where the principal residential development is established. This is a Reserve Matters for the detailed development of that site, and that is what we're considering tonight. That said, I'm grateful for people to bring to our attention alleged breaches of planning control, and we will continue to investigate said breaches, but ultimately the council has to decide whether it's expedient to warrant formal enforcement action, but we certainly will investigate.
Okay, I wasn't suggesting enforcement. I was just wondering. So on occasions we do put in these sort of planning of works. Are you saying that we can't do it now because it's too late in the process?
I would take advice from our legal chaps, but generally speaking, at an outline stage, I would expect to see if the council deemed it necessary for a construction management programme to be imposed a condition. Certainly that has happened at other sites. It hasn't happened on this site, and I can only assume for that the council did not consider it necessary to impose such a condition. What I'm saying to you is that there are other regulations that are more effective to deal with the concerns that local residents may have about on social hours, noise, dust, etc. from this site.
Okay, I understand that, sir. But I feel that there is certainly concern and worry whereby this may be appropriate. If possible, could we do it at this stage, sir?
You could, yes. You could have a condition at a reserve matters stage. I would tend to echo Mr. McNair's point. The planning armoury is not the best option to go into battle with, and if there are concerns about hours of operation, etc., noise, dust, other environmental issues, then frankly colleagues in environmental health may well be better armoured than planners are to resolve those issues.
On a related point, I can give members some assurance that with or without construction management conditions, we have very effective tools in our box to sort such things out. Quite recently, environmental health and planning and others were involved in some complaints that were arising from neighbours of a construction site. People turning up very early, working at hours, noise and dust and all sorts of things. And that was very simply nipped in the bud actually with antisocial behaviour regulations. So very effectively, without the need to consider changing that. I thought that was worth sharing to reiterate the point that, other tools are more effective to deal with issues that may arise.
Okay, my big concern is just to making sure that we are satisfied that we have the appropriate enforcement strategy to deal with those concerns by the local residents, because it is unfair to have people's life blighted by construction work, etc., etc., etc. So are you saying that we are happy that we have measures in place that if complaints come from the residents that they will be investigated, that there's no gaps, and that we can actually deal with it effectively with the residents?
Yes, there is powers in place.
Okay, thank you. I think that was my big point. I note that there is obviously a difference of opinion, and I would probably just encourage, if I can, for that continued dialogue with the locals and the parish council to try to resolve things locally, because there's obviously difference of opinions over here. What we want is to build these properties, to have dwellings for our communities, and for them to be developed in a way which is amenable on both sides. So I hope that will continue.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Evans first.
Thank you, Chairman. We had three speakers, and the first two speakers spoke of some problem about heaps of rubbish and so on. But that, unfortunately, is not what we are dealing with in front of us, because we are dealing with the planning application. Now, in the previous, in the application for, that was the outline application, it was certain conditions were imposed, and if you say that they haven't been breached, I think if there is evidence for the contrary, that is not for us to decide. It will be dealt via the enforcement officer or whatever. Speaking about the hours of work, if we have the reassurance that the community will not be impacted, we have no impact on the work, and I'm sure the means New Homes Limited will ensure that they don't upset all the residents. It will be appreciated, and I do not form, for example, that they work on Saturday afternoon and Sunday and bank holidays. That is maybe the most that comes to mind. My other point that hasn't been mentioned, we have, I think, 6 affordable houses, and could we see where they are? And it's my belief there are just 6 3-bedroom houses. Is that in the outline? Is that with the condition? Is that normal? That they are all? I think they are all in the same site. Is that normal, or can we do something about affordable housing on that site?
Well, the affordable housing, the provision of affordable housing was secured at the outline stage, in section number 6 that it was attached to. That's the grouping that's been submitted as part of this application. Yes, there has been discussions in the past, certainly many have discussed the issue of pepper potting, etc. But on a site of this size, we would judge that grouping to be acceptable. And certainly our colleagues in policy, planning policy, who have advised on affordable housing have not identified any problems with what's being provided or indeed its siting.
Because if I read through, not through the report, but before, we had 6 houses and there are just 3 bedrooms. So maybe next time we could do something better. But as it stands, if the planning knows the history of the site, and providing that we, the parish, the construction and our DDC officer managed to speak together to ensure that the phase number 2 go as well as anticipated. I would be happy to go with officer advice, providing that other members are happy with the condition of work during the construction can be fair for everybody. Thank you. So it's my proposal.
Is that a proposal?
Yeah.
Do you have a seconder? Yes, you do now. There's 2, so whichever one you want to take. Councillor Organ.
Yeah, just to support this, I am happy. I think this is the right thing to do. I just want to make sure that we are clear on ensuring that there are those protections. In the first phase, were there conditions with regard to when working should stop? Do we know whether that was?
No, there wasn't.
There wasn't.
Not that I'm aware of. As I've said to members, you're entitled to impose any conditions you want.
Okay,
I, as an officer, am giving you advice about the dangers about imposing such conditions.
Okay, sir.
You're quite entitled to impose such conditions.
So, with regard to when working should stop, how do we police that without conditions? So if you say that... Absolutely.
Well, through you, Chairman, with or without conditions, somebody constructing a new property in a village has got to abide by various other pieces of legislation.
Yeah.
So, unless there's some reason to go beyond what is usual,
okay.
Then
if I may assist members, certainly on other sites we have imposed conditions that apply to working hours from sort of 8:30 in the morning to no later than 6 Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
8 o'clock till 12 o'clock, something like that on Saturday. No workings on Sundays, no working on bank holidays. If members feel that such conditions are necessary with respect to the reserved matters, then you're perfectly entitled to come to that conclusion.
Okay. Well, if we cannot guarantee that can be policed effectively for the community, I would like that to be a condition, and I would propose that. So
Before you say that, I can tell you there was an application here, I think it was 2 years ago, that people working outside working condition, hours that we put on at CRIP were happening. And it was investigated and looked at, and it was probably so. And it happened a couple of times. In the end, I think they appealed against it and got rid of the hours. So it didn't stop it, okay? But what is being said, there is now other legislation which is quicker and faster. Because if you go to a builder and say, look, you're not working at these times, that builder can appeal against it. That appeal can take as long to hear as the houses will be built by then. We can still carry on doing it.
I accept that. I accept that, but I want reassurance that the community are going to have redress on people not abusing this and causing problems to their living quality of life. Does that make sense?
Chairman, we can never make...
No, I know that. But
Hold on a sec, the applicant's indicating that he might want to answer that one point. You may answer that one point.
Even if those conditions are on there, I promise that we will abide by the exact same hourly conditions that were put on the first application. We only work a 5-day week normally. We only work the normal hours that are normally stipulated in there. We will not be working weekends. We will not be working at nights. We will stick to that, and we will abide by all the other things. And what I will do, I'm more than happy to sit down with you and take you through a works plan, so that you're convinced before we actually start work that you're happy that we've taken all your concerns on board.
So you're happy with the condition that says no weekend working and no working after a certain time of night?
I'm happy to carry the same out working hours that was on the first.
No problem with that at all?
No.
Yeah.
Okay?
So could we add that?
Then it could be added then.
But if it's already on, then what's the case?
No, it's not there.
Clarify, is that
No.
the first proposition?
Yes.
I would like
Could we
to-
put the
yeah.
same condition that in phase
and
one?
rather than speak to me, sir, I'd rather you speak to the parish and take their...
No, you talk to the chair.
Sorry, all right. Yeah.
Okay. Right, going back to the proposition.
So can I do the proposition, having heard what
The applicant said.
I think it shows willingness, and we could put with not any fear those conditions, as the applicant has no reason to oppose. So let's put so everybody is very clear.
The standard weekend
Yes,
late at
it's
night
the same as
condition.
phase one.
And you're happy for that to second that as
Yeah,
well?
and through you, Chair, it would be nice for that work schedule to be talked through with the local parish and the neighbours, so they may be involved to see, because it's going to affect them more than me personally. So,
Through you, Chairman, the construction management plan will be agreed with the planning officer and will be available with the planning reports.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Now, I've got more speakers. Do more people want to speak? I've got an indication from Councillor Patchett and Councillor Ritchie. You still wish to speak?
Yes.
Right. Councillor Patchett, you wish to speak first?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It was just one query really. On the second paragraph on page 26, at the bottom there, it says NCC say that any properties with over 3 bedrooms are required to have at least 3 bedrooms. I was just a bit confused about that really.
I think that refers to parking spaces, Chairman.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Okay.
It's just
Councillor Ritchie.
bizarre comment to me, really.
I'm sorry.
Be their typo.
Yeah. Okay, that's the thing.
Thank you, Chair. I have 2 questions. My first follows up a point raised by Councillor Rosewood about the social housing being tucked into one corner of the site. The response from the officers was, I can't exactly quote, but it was that we would feel that such a grouping in a project of this size is appropriate. My apologies if I have misquoted you. I would personally think, we in this context presumably means the officers rather than the district council, because we haven't taken a decision on that. I would just be interested as to why on earth, because of the size of the site, it seems appropriate that social housing should all be pushed into one little corner of the site. That's not what naturally happens in a traditional village, quite apart from anywhere else. And my second question, I don't know if it's possible to they put up the slides with the illustrations of the styles of the houses. Now, I'm looking at the second bottom paragraph on page 27. The design of the properties is reflective of those approved on the site to the east. I take that as a statement of fact. And the paragraph goes on saying that in improving the adjacent site, it has been established that design, size and scale of these dwellings are acceptable within this locality. Established by whom? I mean, there must be something here about subjectivity. You know, to me, looking at these designs, there is nothing about them that says village. They are designs that I have seen across the district, in all sorts of settings. And I am sympathetic to the concern that has been raised by the parish council, saying that, look, is this not just another off-the-shelf housing scheme that is being dumped in the corner of our village? How do you go about deciding what designs are appropriate for particular village situations? What actually would chime in with the rest of Welford? That isn't how Welford was built. And I just wonder if there are any sort of guidelines or definitions that you can point to here to establish that these actually make sense.
We can give you an answer to both your questions, right?
The designs in this phase are similar to the ones already approved by council for the first phase. If Welford Village had a neighbourhood plan or a village design statement, that might be a starting point, but otherwise the applicant puts forward designs and then they're considered by case officers whether they're acceptable or not. With regard to your social housing point, that arrangement is acceptable to both the social landlords who are going to be taking over and operating the site. When we say pepper pots here, we think of individual houses, but actually in management terms they're like small clusters of properties. If you had 100 houses, they might want 8 here and 6 there, or what have you. But on a site of that size, there is no benefit in moving them all around. It's both acceptable to the social landlord and also to our planning policy colleagues who comment on every application of this nature.
So I hear what you say, but we don't approve designs to please landlords, whether they're social landlords or other landlords. We're coming up with designs that are going to fit with the rest of the community and the rest of the village.
Hold on a second.
We make comments on the designs put in by applicants. It's if the village itself had got some design guidance, that would be a starting point for an applicant to consider. That isn't the case here. But it is always the role of planning to consider the application before us. And before we get to this stage of determining it, we may well have gone back beforehand with comments on the appropriateness of different designs, plot sizes or what have you. So we don't get to decide. And in fact, the MPPF says we mustn't inflict design issues.
Again, through you, Chairman, the MPPF is quite clear that local planning authorities should consider using design codes, etc., where they could help deliver high quality outcomes. However, design policy should avoid unnecessary prescription of detail and should concentrate on guiding the overall scale, density, massing, landscape, etc., etc. And then paragraph 60, planning policies and decisions should not attempt to impose architectural styles or particular tastes, and they should not stifle innovation or originality, etc. So in other words, if we don't have sufficient policy or design codes to go against what is being put by an applicant, then unless we have got very good reasons for resisting it, we should be imposing our own design standards or tastes on the proposal.
Yeah.
In my view and officers' views, this proposal is acceptable. In terms of what's across the street, the existing village vernacular, as it were, I think you'll probably find is typical of many a town situation. Those are not particularly outstanding or dwellings of significant or special architectural merit, I would consider. So in that context, in my view, proposed design, layout, etc. is acceptable and appropriate in these particular circumstances.
But can I
Yeah, you can
just
come
ask-
back if it's a quick one.
I'd just like to ask, are you saying, is it within the power of this committee to say that we do not approve this application because we don't like the designs, we don't think they're appropriate? Is that something that would be possible for us to do if that was indeed our position?
Through you, Chairman, yeah, it's quite appropriate for the planning committee member to come to whatever decision they so choose. The issue is then whether or not you are unreasonably withholding planning permission, or you have got sufficient reasons to support your viewing the planning permission, in this case reserved matters, on a site where residential development has already been established. In principle, it warrants refusing that particular layout and design.
Okay. Right, next person is Irving Swift, Councillor Irving Swift.
Yes, to help Councillor Ritchie, I am glad to say that Welford Parish has now starting to have their neighbourhood plan. So if that would have been in front of us today, maybe we would have been able to deal another way. But what is in front of us today is very difficult to disagree. Even we might not like it, but we have to be reasonable when we take, because if it goes to appeal, we need to have good planning reasons, and I think what we propose, or my proposition, with a good management, site management, would be appropriate for this time. Thank you.
Thank you. It would be a VDS that Welford Parish wants.
Yes.
To help with the design part anyway.
Okay,
Councillor Robertson.
Just through you, Chairman, on page 28, we have made reference to the Welford Neighbourhood Plan. At this stage, it's a draft stage, it isn't made, so we cannot attach any substantial weight to that. Does it warrant an adverse decision on this particular proposal?
Okay, Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. I've made this point before. Our villages in this area are a complete mishmash of every kind of dwelling you could possibly imagine, old and new. And I don't really see the point that this is out of keeping with any of our villages. It's perfectly in keeping because we've got this kind of development all over the place.
Thank you. If there's no more speakers, we have a proposal the application be approved with the addition of the working times, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Those against? So it's one abstention. The application is approved subject to the addition of the working time. Next application is in Newnham and it's 0089.
Thanks, Chairman. I'll draw members' attention to the late representations. Petition we received an electronic, the details of an electronic petition, 200 plus signatories to it, opposing the application. The application itself is an application for a change of use of an existing shop, effectively the ground floor, because there's an existing first floor flat above, to provide a single 4-bedroom dwelling. On balance, we judge the proposal to be acceptable on the grounds that the applicant's been able to demonstrate that the proposal hasn't got any prospect of being viable, and whilst it is regrettable, our views in planning balance terms is that the proposal should be approved, and accordingly recommending that, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. We have two speakers. I don't know whether it's Mr. Haynes or Mr. Bailey, but there's one that's against it. Okay, so which are you, Mr. Haynes or Mr. Bailey?
Mr. Haynes.
Okay, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, good evening. Born and bred in Newnham, educated at school. Father's lived there 45 years. My older brother, his family lived down the bottom of the village. The shop and pub, the main reason why Newnham's such an attractive village. whilst the pub was just been recently re-energised, now owned by Maria's Kitchen, proved very, very popular over the weekend, with the opening weekend. And we feel that as a pair, they will play a central role to the actual community. The shop remains closed today and is now subject to today's application. From the shop, I delivered papers as a child, as did my brothers and my cousins. And how much a central part of the community would be if we were to allow to continue training as a shop. The older people get, the less mobile they become. Having spoken to the elderly people within the village, I know many of them on first name terms, they're all concerned about this. Also, winter accessing outside the village is limited. There is no bus route in that village, so for many of us, it is it's our only amenities. We feel strongly that a well-stocked shop, which I would happily help happen, would not only serve Newnham but also Evelyn, Bagby, Preston, Cape, and everywhere in between, especially the farming community. I've spoken to a large number of people in the village, most if not even though the planning have been requested for change. They are also shocked and devastated at the prospect of losing the shop, and they also worry about what else has happened in the village that they are unaware of. Residents' concerns are as follows. Once the shop is gone, there will be no chance of ever having one again. This would be a great loss. If the property is converted, we'd see it either being sold, giving it no benefit to the village and the person who owns it. If such planning applications are allowed, they serve to seal the fate of the village and many others as a middle-class dormitory rather than a local community. Should our only shop become a house, there is no parking, meaning more parked cars on the road, which would cause a problem during school times. There is no access to and from the property. The only parking out front is owned by the house next door, and the access between is shared access. The shop provides a place for the elderly to go to speak to somebody when buying a paper, a week's food, which is a familiar, safe place if they want to get out of the house. The shop provides employment opportunities for local people to work in, ideal for those who have retired, have families or even youngsters taking their first job, as I did. Our plan of action is as follows. Run the shop as a non-profit venture for the community and stock a range of produce, including Northamptonshire produce, offer fresh bread 3 times a week, fresh milk, fresh cakes, tea, coffee, local produce delivered, paper round, traditional sweet shop, local meat and veg. This will not only support the local farmers, promote businesses, tradesmen and make the shop a central part of the rural community, both physically, online, supporting local employment. We also support local events planned by the Friends of Newnham School, Fonds, the Rome Arm Pub, which has just been redone.
Could you wind up, please?
Yeah, nearly finished. Jazz on the Green and other surrounding village fates. Please, we need our community shop. We urge you to refuse this application.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sharon, who's the applicant?
Thank you very much. I've been a convenience store retailer for 25 years with experience in both large company-owned stores and also small village stores, similar to the one that I own in Byfield and have done since 2008. Having lost its post office in 2008, the store in Newnham was struggling, and as I commuted to Byfield, I saw its decline prior to its closure in 2010. By this time, I was moving house to Byfield to be near my business, and we managed to acquire Newnham stores in 2013 to complement our existing business in Byfield. In our opinion, the previous owners hadn't made the most of the potential custom from Newnham and the surrounding villages, and neither as they presented the store as well as we intended to. We would benefit from economies of scale by splitting case sizes between the stores. This would allow us to carry a broad range that otherwise Newnham couldn't support as a standalone store. I also used the leverage of the parent store in Byfield to get good supplier terms and get suppliers in there that otherwise may not have supplied that store at all. In order for Newnham stores to secure its future, we weren't simply satisfied with these economies of scale. We also made long-term investments and plans to try and ensure the future of that store. We invested in building works to incorporate what used to be the post office into the main shop floor area. We replaced all of the shelving and counter equipment, refurbished all of the retail space. We installed modern till equipment and put in multiple methods of payment. We acquired a license to sell alcohol. We introduced a range of over 2,500 products, and this included fruit and vegetables and locally sourced meats and everything you would expect in a convenience store. We installed new refrigeration and air conditioning. We advertised locally in the villages of Badby, Forsley, Little Everton and obviously Newham. We recruited local staff to extend the opening hours until 8 p.m. every day. This represented an investment of around £29,000 excluding VAT. Despite this, the shop made a loss across all 3 years of its business. Within the planning application are the figures, but I've got copies of those if anybody would like them today. And despite this, the sales rising slowly year on year, the turnover never showed any signs of reaching a point where it could cover the costs of having this store open. So to summarise, as the figures show, even if the shop had been operated for all of its opening hours each week by a sole operator with no additional staff, he or she would not have been able to pay themselves the minimum wage from 2005. In trying to make it successful, we've removed any debate about what potential Newnham stores had by making sure that we pushed it to its potential, and in doing so, we have discovered that unfortunately it isn't commercially viable under any management as a village shop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Local member, Councillor Patchett again, is it?
Sorry, not my direct chairman.
It's the leading man. Yes, Councillor, you may go.
Well, to say it's unfortunate that this can't be made to work is unfortunate. Any loss of a village facility such as this is, well, sad to say the least. I really do feel for the village, and clearly 204 signatures indicates the concerns. The fact that residents of Herd Lake is unfortunate as well. This is very tricky. It does go against policy in various bits and pieces, as is acknowledged in the papers. Yeah, it's a problem. Parking is one of the things that the NCC brought up. I'd like it to open discussion up to other members on this one, but I think it would be a real shame if this can't be saved or something be done with it.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Patchett first. I've got Councillor Patchett, Councillor Ogre, Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Robertson. Councillor Wesley, not Councillor.
Chair, I think you've got the wrong glasses.
Yeah, I've got the wrong one. Yeah, the wrong glasses on, yeah.
Again.
And Councillor Chandler. Right, Councillor Patchett, you're first.
It
No,
was
it's
the other councillor Patchett.
I'll try Councillor French with you.
Always.
Thank you, Chair. It's quite interesting what happens with village shops. When the one in Spratton was faced with closure, of course we asked everybody whether they wanted a village shop, and everybody said they did. So we asked a separate question, how many of you actually use it? And unfortunately it's never quite the same percentage as those that say they want to keep it. What I'm very surprised about is that the parish council and the villages haven't registered it as an asset of community value, which I think is the right term.
Details on the website.
Thank you, which would have given them the opportunity, as the first speaker said, to have purchased or run the shop, because if it was run as a social venture rather than a commercial venture, then it perhaps has every opportunity to succeed. So I'm very conflicted by this, because on the one hand I think it obviously won't work as a commercial venture, but I think that the parish council should have pushed harder for the asset of community value. I don't know if it's too late for them to step in, and whether we can defer this until they've had discussions with the owner to see if this is a possible avenue for them. I would ask our legal advisor on that.
Legal man, is that possible or not?
I think it's very difficult, Councillor, because a valid planning application has been put in. What you're doing, and I have every sympathy with what you're saying, is, but you're not saying, I'm going to refuse your application for a valid planning reason. You're wishing that the good people of Newnham and the parish council in particular had actually put an application in for an asset of community value. They haven't, So isn't the applicant entitled to have his decision on his planning application?
I thought that would be the case, therefore it is make it very difficult, and you know, I'm conflicted by this and will make my decision in due course, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Fretchman, alias Councillor Fretchman. Councillor Organ.
I'll speak then.
Mr. Chairman, while we're on the topic of, I don't think there's anything to preclude, it's outside planning, but if there is that strong sense of feeling in the village, I don't believe there's anything to preclude them getting together and submitting a bid for the shop to be listed, notwithstanding what we do with planning permission.
There is a difficulty, of course, that the planning use will then have changed by that point, and the value of it will have changed considerably by virtue of having a residential value rather than a retail commercial.
Okay. Councillor Organ.
Sorry, I think.
No. Yeah, it's a stunning joke.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I was this is so difficult, isn't it? We see this all over the country, and I know how I need to vote on this. But I would like to commend both speakers. The first speaker, you know, really, I felt, Chair, was passionate, and we feel and are grateful for them to come and share their testimony and represent their community, and also the story of the shop owner that's done their best to make this a viable venture. So I feel I would like to propose that we actually, if it's appropriate, to go with officers' advice on this.
Do you have a second? Councillor Robertson. Would you like to speak now, or?
Yeah, just a few words, Chair, if I may. Basically, this is we've all heard the old adage, you've got to use it or you're going to lose it. And basically, it's not the village's fault. It's nobody's fault, is it? This is happening everywhere. Supermarkets have taken over the role of our provisioners, and it must be very difficult for any shopkeeper in a smallish village to make ends meet. I take the point, in fact, that the owner has tried his best and says that even minimum wage he couldn't make it pay. So I do think that you know, we're going to have to allow this, but I have every sympathy with the villagers as well. You know, but there is pretty much nothing that can be done, in my opinion.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Wesley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, difficult one. But there are other factors around this apart from the things that have just been discussed, and one of the main ones as well is the traffic and parking situation of this very locked in property, and you know, cars and traffic are an issue around this village green and around these little tiny bits of lane and path that pedestrians have to try and cross. It is extremely cramped in. And yes, I'll take the point that as a shop, then other people are going to be there, but primarily, yes, it's a village shop, so pedestrians. But when you go to a shop, you're only there for 5 minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes, so you're there and gone. I know from Newnham that green area in the pub is very much the hub of the community. The events are held on there, people sit on the green, etc. And parking is at a premium when anything is on. And at times the pub, I know it goes up and down, but it is popular and it gets very, very, very busy. And I think we should bear that in mind when we're talking about this. You know, as I said, yes, the shop will attract cars, but they will move on. But the fact remains, it is a shop at the moment, and those cars, that comes with the territory, and it's a little payoff for the benefit of that being a shop. When it's a house, it's just another house in a cramped-in situation. As far as commercial viability goes, I'm not a shop owner, and I do absolutely believe that the speaker, that he's done his level best to make it work. He's put money into it and he's worked really, really hard. But everyone does everything differently, and my view on this is once it's gone, it's gone. And there does seem to be a will in the village to try and make it work. and I'm of a mind to say to go against the officer's advice on this myself, and support and say no, the use doesn't change, and then maybe look at it again if the villagers can't get their act together and make it work. That's my view.
Thank you. Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Chairman. Picking up what my colleague has just said, I don't think I heard him mention a valid planning reason for refusing.
Well, it was the, sorry, I won't across.
We've just had a very similar situation in Yelvertoft where I live, and I just wanted to point out that it did galvanise interest in the village actually making use of the shop, but what saved it was the post office. And we've already heard that this post office has been lost here, and therefore I'm afraid it's very easy for such a business to fall below the viability level, and recovery is virtually impossible by the experience that we see throughout the country.
Thank you, Councillor Chandler. Councillor Irving-Swift. Councillor Patchett then.
No, sorry, I think Councillor Ritchie wanted to speak before me.
Well, Councillor Patchett, you go first then.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, the Byfield shop was mentioned, and it is a very well-run shop, and the applicant does know what he's doing with running shops. You know, and it is a shame. I mean, I don't like the idea of it shutting either, but you know, business is business.
Thank you. Councillor Irving-Swift.
Yes. It is very difficult. I do feel for the village, but they should have put their act together a bit before. We have the same case at Cretan, but we also have a post office, and I would suggest for the village to get in touch with Cretan, who have made a campaign, Sell Our Shop, because even if the shop is closed here, they have a pub, and in the pub they might be able to accommodate a small shop. It's a way of doing other means. What I do think that in all our villages that I represent, we have just 2 villages with a shop, I think. Otherwise it has all been lost. Few have no more pubs. The problem is that I have every sympathy with the shop owner who try everything, and let's not be, yes, the value of the house will change because it will become from a shop to a residential area, but that he is the only one yet who has lost money. So I think we should be, even if we don't like it, let's hope that the village realize it was an asset and find another way. Or if you want a bit of development, which is what Cretan is going to do, Cretan has secured that maybe with the developer will put a shop on their development, a community shop, and everybody would be happy. So I will go with officer advice. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you, Chairman. I feel very sorry for the gentleman over there. He's took the time to try this shop. It hasn't worked. He's had to close it. He's now put in an application which has cost him time and money. And he's actually brought it here. And we're supposed to be signing on this application, not something that might happen. We don't know. We might say no to this. They might try and get something else together and it won't work. In the meantime, that gentleman's sitting there in an empty shop and he spent his money perhaps for nothing. He'd have to put in again. So I think we should go ahead and decide on what we've got in front of us.
Thank you. Well, we go to Councillor Ritchie.
Well, I'm glad that you have eventually spotted that I'm here, Chair. Thank you.
It's hard to miss you, Councillor Ritchie, but I did miss you for a while.
From the discussion, I do get the impression that Daventry District Council is totally impotent. You know, it's clear that this village shop, take away the village shop, and Unum becomes simply a place where there are houses where people live, rather than something that is actually a community. We have, you know, been given the vision of what this could be. You know, there could be a community enterprise that gets together around about this. All of these things, okay, some of them might work, some of them might not work, but have we explored it? And have we, as a district council, provided the advice and the ideas and all the other community development work that should go with it to the people of Newnham? Have our councillors actually been in touch with what has been happening here, rather than just suddenly finding that we have a village shop that is about to close? I just feel that we have let down Newnham, and we will let them down emphatically if we simply say that this can be converted into yet another house. Of course, we cannot insist that people attempt to run shops that are, that simply are going to be loss-making. But I just feel that we need to find some way of deferring a decision on this, so that that sort of discussion can take place, so that there is a discussion that takes place with the owner of the shop, with the parish council, with others who would like to do something within the shop, to see what can be done, to see what sort of support the council can give to try to make this actually work. I'm grateful to Councillor Wesley for suggesting that there is not adequate parking for having this as a house. I don't know what else you come up with a planning reason, but I could not possibly support this application.
Thank you, Councillor Rishi. One could also say, if there isn't enough parking for a house, where would all the people that are coming from farms and Forsley and all the surrounding villages going to go, the additional people that are going to the shops? And I take exception to the fact that Daventry District Council has let people in Newnham down, and its local members has. I don't believe it has, and I think that's an unfair thing to say, Councillor Ritchie. Also, you've got a man here that has put his money where his mouth is. He's tried to run a business here, and it is not worked out. He's got a business elsewhere. Even if you refuse this, all you'll end up with is an empty building if the village don't take it on. An empty building is no good to a village and no good to a community at all. I don't usually put points of view forward, but I feel strongly that, having a very tiny business myself. Anyway, we have sorry, there's one more person that wishes to speak, Councillor Fenton, and then we go to the vote.
No, it's fine now. You've
Okay.
made my points.
Okay. Well, we must be similar about that. We have a proposal that the application be approved as per officer's advice. It's been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Right, those against. The application is approved as per officer's advice.
Could I raise a point of information, Chairman? We've dealt with that. I wanted to ask the planning officer's advice why this came to committee when I understood it would have been committee development.
Got the answer for that, Chairman. Under the General Community Development Law Order, there's a time constraint in terms of when it was used. As I understand it, that any kind of permission is required.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. The next application is in Brixworth, and the number is 0167.
Thank you, Chairman. Members may recall this item, which members refused an application for an arts and crafts style house, as it was not considered to meet the requirements of paragraph 55 of the framework, which is an exception or a policy with the National Planning Policy Framework, which allowed for new isolated houses in the open countryside. The site itself is located off Maryton Lane in the parish of Brixworth in the open countryside. The Brampton Valley Way is located to the east, which runs along the former Northampton and Lamport Railway. The site is within the special landscape area. This is a revised application for the construction of a paragraph 55 house, and the overall design has very much altered since the previous scheme. Members will see photos of the former Brixworth station, which was in an isolated position. The current design has taken its inspiration from old railway buildings and have included a modern twist on it. Prior to the application being submitted, the applicants liaised with Open, who are the design councillor who gives the council advice upon paragraph 55 houses, and they previously objected to the previous scheme for the arts and craft house. Paragraph 55 house dwellings notes that proposals should be truly outstanding or innovative, helping to raise the standards of design, reflect the highest standards in architecture, significantly enhance the immediate setting, be sensitive to the defining character of the local area. In determining whether Open considers it accords with paragraph 55, they consider various elements such as the landscape approach, architectural treatment and architecture, sustainability and environmental performance. Open have considered these and considers the proposal now meets the relevant criteria and supports the application for a paragraph 55 house. Members will note from the papers that the local parish councils do not consider it accords with paragraph 55. However, officers have considered these comments and agree with Open, and it does accord with paragraph 55 of the framework. The applicants have overcome highway concerns, which was not used as a reason for refusal previously, and provided suitable worded conditions as opposed. The proposal is unlikely to result in a danger to those using the highway. The landscape officer also considers the proposed landscaping is appropriate for its rural setting. The application is therefore recommended for approval. Members' attention is drawn to the late reps from the Environmental Health requesting conditions to be imposed if members would like to approve the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. We have one speaker, Mr. Wayne.
Chairman and Councillors, you have before you a very full and, as expected, fair and objective report from your officers. You also have a full report from Open as advisors to local authorities on matters of design. These reports provide an objective analysis of the scheme as submitted and amended based on advice from Open and your officers. Open considers the scheme to be both innovative and exceptional, and as such exceeds the requirements of Para 55, which only requires the design is innovative or exceptional. Your officers and Open in addition support the proposal in landscape terms. The design philosophy is based on both exceptional architecture and integration into the existing landscape, and is fully set out in the application documents. The picture you see there is actually a blow-up from a photograph taken a long way back, a photo montage of what the building would look like in its landscape. The dwelling provides a functional response, but it also provides delight, and as such it exceeds its function and creates a truly outstanding design. The project demonstrates that traditional materials can be used in a new and innovative way, that not only raise standards of design in the area, but also promote the highest standards of architecture more generally. My client has worked with Open and your office throughout, and the result is now seen as exceptional and intriguing design, with generous living accommodation, elegant composition, complemented by a comprehensive landscape design that responds well to the various opportunities of the site. Chairman, that's an extract from the final report from Open. In addition, access is acceptable and the existing river bridge is to be strengthened. The property is designed to be carbon neutral by the use of on-site renewables. If I can just turn to the various parish council concerns. As you know, Chairman, Para 55 does not allow for an exception to normal policy. It does allow for an exception to normal policy subject to the criteria I've set out. None of the parish councils set out in design terms an objective analysis. With respect, it is not sufficient to say it doesn't comply. That is neither a sound nor clear-cut reason for refusal, which is required to demonstrate in a reason for refusal. There is no evidence before you to justify refusal on impact on the landscape. In fact, the opposite is true. So far as the Brixworth Neighbourhood Plan is concerned, if it satisfies Para 55, then it complies with Policy 2, Criterion 4 of that document. But that document does not assist in setting out criteria to assess compliance. So it must follow, Chairman, that if this council considers it Para 55 compliant, it satisfies the Neighbourhood Plan, as well as your own policy. Chairman, my clients took careful note of the previous concerns of this committee. We now put before you a proposal which it is submitted fully satisfies the reasons this committee refused the previous application. I would therefore respectfully request that you follow your officer's advice and approve the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. The local member, Councillor Parker.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank the parishes of Brampton, Stratton, Dixford in supporting Brixworth Parish Council against this application. This application is a rerun of DA 2015-0638, which was for an arts and crafts house in the same field, which was rejected by this committee. We now have moved on to an imaginary railway station. The officer quite rightly refers to this application as being subjective and whether the house will sit comfortably within the landscape. The officer refers to various policies, GM1, there being tension with criterion F, which severely restrains development in the open countryside. I think there is definitely tension. It's against that policy. EM1, the site lies within an extensive SLA. Whilst the proposal does not strictly comply with criterion A, it comprises agricultural, forestry, recreation or tourist development, so plainly it does not. It is considered to comply with B and D. With regard to D, it does not adversely affect the character of the local landscape. The house sits in an arable field and within an SLA, so it must adversely affect the landscape. So we have numerous policies and the main Brixworth Neighbourhood Plan, which this application goes against, which can be magically dismissed if Para 55 is used. The applicant tries to link the house to a railway line. As the officer states, there has never been a station there because it's at least 50 metres away, with the River Nen in between. The applicant then tries to link building to an imaginary railway station, which reflects the history of the site, its immediate vicinity and the wider setting. As I've said before, the history of the site as it is today is an arable field in open countryside and within an SLA. If we now look at open comments, their final letter, I think they actually produced 4 letters, but they seem to settle on the 4th one. One of the points mentioned was the proposed house located to the eastern boundary of the site next to the railway line. It's not next to the railway line, the River Nen is in between. The house is positioned to capitalise on long views to the countryside. So the house has been designed to look at views within the SLA. It would seem to be its sole purpose. The revised transport design of the winter garden stroke sunroom linking the main 2-storey building with a single-storey bedroom accommodation works well. Have you seen many railway stations with sunrooms and linking the buildings together? Care should be taken to sensibly integrating the solar panels into the roof. So we now have solar panels. This is truly an imaginary railway station. The open summary comment reflects the history of the site. It's a field. In conclusion, they state the proposal could be, they do not use the word is and truly, as Para 55 states. In bringing to attention the comments from Open, I point out they are not a statutory body which Daventry must inform, and whilst they are entitled to their views, it carries little weight. This decision is a balance. The house will be built in open countryside with an SLA and will be harmful to the character of the area. Para 55 is not a get out of jail card. It is outweighed to other harm it causes, which this house does. I therefore, Chairman, cannot support the officer's advice. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I gather you don't like that then. Councillor Thatcher.
Thank you. Obviously, as a neighbouring district councillor, Stratton have commented on this. I won't go through all the points that my colleague has just raised. The chase, it either is or it isn't a paragraph 55 house. And I think reading paragraph 55, it's quite obvious to me that this isn't a paragraph 55 house, because it doesn't significantly enhance its immediate setting. It isn't sensitive to the defining characteristics of the local area, and I think, as mentioned earlier, the final letter from Open is hardly a ringing endorsement, judging by the language that they have used. You have to bear in mind, this isn't an experiment. It's built. If it's a failure, it's a problem, but you can't get rid of the house once it's built. But for potentials and could-bes, I think it's a very great risk to take on such a site. This is a tranquil site that is enjoyed by hundreds and thousands of people throughout the year. I think that the public amenities section of this is trampled all over, and I would like to propose that we object to this, as it refuse this application, as it transgresses every policy that we've ever had.
Well, you better be a bit more specific.
How would you want? It's in open countryside, it's not a paragraph 55 house, the public amenity. Paragraph 55.
Can I come through you, Chairman? If you look on page 52, at the bottom paragraph, you note that the previous reasons for refusal of the arts and crafts style house.
This is a new application in front of us, which I am looking at as a new application.
Obviously, yes.
Because that's what's in front of us, and I have no regard for what went before.
No, obviously, yes, each case is taken on its own merits, but you also have to have regard to sort of the previous reasons for refusal, which is pretty much saying that it is not a paragraph 55 house.
Yeah.
So I'm just...
But it's exactly the same reasons then.
Which is what
Sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologise.
So to clarify your every reason in the book,
Say
you're
yours last
happy with
time.
those reasons?
Yes.
Right. Do you have a seconder? Councillor, right behind you, Councillor Parker. Right, and the next person I've got to speak is Councillor Order.
Yeah, I'm on the other page. I'm sorry. I think it is. I think I remember this first application, and but for this, as soon as I saw the pictures and the designs, I think it is, and I think it would add value to that area. I think, and yeah, I couldn't go against officer on this. So to cut a long story short, I'm just on the opposite page to some of my colleagues.
Thank you.
I will be approving it.
Thank you. Right, the real council match.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one query really. It says on page 49 that the main house is at a 10-metre ridge height. Is that right, or is that a mistake?
To be honest, I haven't fully measured, but the case officer would have fully measured. But if you sort of look at the elevations, yeah, I can imagine it's pretty much.
That's a very high building.
10 metres.
Yeah, I mean my house is 7.5 metres, not scary high. Well, we're talking about the ridge height, not the chimney height, aren't we? Now, that's what it says on the third paragraph. It says the principal two-storey building at the station house will measure 25 metres long by 7.5 metres wide with a ridge height just in excess of 10 metres. I mean, that's sort of 2.5 stories, really.
It's an actual planning application.
We'll try and find out, please. The slide rules out.
It pretty much is 9.4 from the finished floor level. That's just from one elevation, so potentially with the sloping side, it could be classed as 10 metres high.
Because I mean, in open countryside, I mean, a 10-metre building is going to stand out in the Wales.
Like that.
Like that.
Okay, Councillor Patrick.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Councillor Irving Swift.
Yes, to add, we saw the inspiration of the house, which was a station house and a single wall. And, well, word failed me, because I don't see anything beautiful in the inspiration. In fact, I'm quite glad that we don't need station like that. Give me St. Pancras, I can see, but that, if that is the inspiration, I find it very difficult to see any beauty. It's very Victorian, and it's but that is the most unattractive railway station. Some railway stations are attractive, but this one is not. So if that was the inspiration, you go to Oakham, you go to St. Pancras, yes, but here I failed to see the beauty, and therefore I will go with against officer advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ritchie.
This is an area that I actually know and use well for, for walking. People go there, they walk, they cycle along the, the Brampton Valley path there, because it takes you away. It takes you away from houses into completely open, if I say unspoiled countryside. Clearly, countryside changes when farmers get to work on it. But it takes you into, well, open countryside. I just don't see any reason why we should give permission for building a house, even if the architecture is marvelous, even if it is, it meets everything that you could possibly want from a house in terms of its quality, its sort of environmental friendliness, and so on. I just think that that if you start allowing people simply in the grounds of the marvels of their architecture and design work to start building in these areas, you simply destroy it. I feel from the language that has been used in describing this design, I feel that suddenly it's being slightly insulted with the sales pitch. It is simply a house. To me, that bears no relation. I don't see any relation to to a railway station. Certainly not to an old railway station. I just think that this is is a complete nonsense. I think that is attempting to find a sales line that might overcome planning objections. But I just feel this would be a terrible thing to agree to.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Evan.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with Councillor Order. I'd like to see this approved. It is different, yes, but our officers say it goes in paragraph 55 house, and they know best. I'd like to see a few more sort of houses, paragraph 55 houses come up. We had one quite a while ago, which went through, and I'd like to see another one. I don't think it will show up much. It's going to be surrounded by trees. It's sitting on the side of a hill up to a point. That's all I've got to say. I'd like to see it approved.
Through you, Chairman, I can give you a little spoiler for Monday. We're going to one of their paragraph 55 houses on the tour on Monday.
So, watch this space. Have you finished, Councillor Evan?
Yes, I'd like to see it approved.
Got Councillor Wesley next.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I don't want to. I think a lot of things have been said, but I would like to sort of say, so I think everything about this, linking it with railways and everything, is just totally tenuous. It's just tenuous. Now, it may be a nice house once you're in it and you're living in it. I'm sure it is. I'm not saying I don't. It wouldn't be a very, very nice place to live, but that's not what we're talking about, is it? There's just no need for this house to be there. And there's lots and lots of rules that say it shouldn't be there. And it just doesn't, the tenuous nature of the design element of it does not mitigate all of those reasons that it shouldn't be there. The rules are there to say it shouldn't be there for a reason, which is to keep that area as it is, basically. And I just do not see it, and that is the bottom line for me.
Thank you.
Through you, Chairman, just to point out, sort of the Brompton Valley Way is actually an old railway track, as I mentioned, and that's immediately to the east, here, along the green area. So yes, it is subjective, and sort of the photographs which were shown regarding Brixworth station was to indicate sort of what sort of potential other buildings as well were associated with a station platform, a station house, signal box, and that's really sort of the inspiration coming from them, then bringing those buildings within although it's not within the railway setting, but adjacent to the setting of the railway. So that's where they come or have got their inspiration from.
Thank you. Right, I think we've gone through everybody's wishes to speak. We have a proposal, the application be refused for the very same reasons as last time. Those in favour, please show. Those against? The application is refused. We give them reasons. Next application is in Broxton, and the number is 0201.
Thanks, Chairman. You'll see from the committee report that Planning Commission was approved for construction of low carbon dwelling, revised scheme 2014. That dwelling is now substantially complete. Not yet occupied, but it's nearing occupation. The application seeks to permission to retain an existing building that was constructed at the time to facilitate the construction of the site. Perfectly entitled to erect temporary buildings on site in connection with developments that you're actually carrying out. Effectively, this application seeks to retain that building, that's the building in the photograph, but also to construct a carport between said building and the approved dwelling. Whilst we know the concerns of the Parish Council, who supported this application originally in terms of the dwelling house, we don't judge the proposal to represent overdevelopment. There is sufficient space within the site to accommodate vehicles that will be attracted to the dwelling and afford sufficient turning space to leave the site in the forward gear. Accordingly, we recommend the application be approved, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We have a speaker somewhere. Yes. No, we don't have a speaker. We don't have a local member either. So, Councillor Order, you've indicated you'd like to speak?
So it's already been approved, as my understanding.
Sorry, through you, Chairman, the dwelling has been approved.
Right.
What you're dealing with is the outbuilding, the garage.
Can that be seen from the roadway?
Not readily from the A45, but from the sort of the access track that runs alongside the old road.
All right. Okay, yeah. I've got it. Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Councillor Longley, you may speak.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. I do know that area very, very well indeed. In fact, I was delivering leaflets there just a few weeks ago. I know the site, and I completely agree with the officers here. It affects nobody, in my view. It's out of the way, and I certainly, were I able to vote, would vote to approve it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for that information. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's virtually said the same as me. It's off the road, it's quite away up that track. It won't really make any difference to the house at all. The garage is there at the moment. We're just saying yes, it can stay there. And a carport that will join the two up. it's not going to make much difference at all. You won't see it from the A5, I doubt it very much, because of all the trees that are up there. And I'd like to propose that we follow officer's advice.
Thank you, Councillor. And do you have a second? Councillor Frenchman, I'll take you, because I've got you next to speak.
I was just going to say, yeah, let's approve it.
Okay. Well, I've got Councillor Patchett to speak as well.
It's okay, Chairman.
You're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, if nobody else wishes to speak on it, we all know this site because we remember planning permission on it. Those in favour, please show. Unanimous. The application is approved as per officer's advice. Next one is 0256 and it's in Ravensthorpe.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a site which is located outside the village of Ravensthorpe along the Teton Road. The property is former stables which has had extensions to the rear at different times, as you will see by the photographs. This is a proposal for the part demolishing and rebuilding of the extensions to the rear to a single-storey flat roof extensions. As you can see by the photos, the existing extensions are not really in keeping with the existing property.
To say the least.
The proposal also includes new canopy stroke porches to the front and to the side of the building. The proposal of the extension is on exactly the same footprint as what's there as existing. It's just with a flat roof rather than a pitched or two pitched roofs. The new extensions is considered to be an improvement to what's there as existing. The extensions will not be seen from main vantage points given sort of the very good vegetation along the boundaries. The canopies are also considered to be acceptable given the amount of alterations that the building has had already. The Parish Council do object to the proposal as it's considered to be contrary to the village design statement. Although this is maybe the case, considering what's currently there, officers consider it an improvement. Therefore, it's recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. No speakers, no local member. Oh, four hands. Councillor Lawley for a start.
Yeah, I can't see a problem with this one, and I think it's a definite improvement. And so good luck to the family, and I would like to propose we follow officer's approval on this one.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Frenchman, you wish to speak?
No, I concur with my colleague.
No, you indicated.
Yes. I would like to ask one question. It says it's got a flat roof. Is there a roof light that's on the plans?
Yes.
It's like a. It doesn't mention anything on that.
No. It's pretty much a flat roof with on the glass roof.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's my question now.
Anybody, some other hands went up.
No, it was just to go with officer advice.
Oh, right. So, okay, we have a proposal that officers' advice be supported. That's been seconded. All those in agreement, please show. Again, unanimous. The application is approved. Next application is 0319 and is in Hollowell, Lansborough.
Thank you, Chairman. This is also along the Teton Lane, however in a different parish, Stratton and Hollywell. The site is approximately 900 metres to the west of Stratton. This is an application for the construction of a new vehicle access and hardware. The description of the application needs to be amended to reflect the hard stamping to the rear of the hedge, which members will see in a minute once all the drawings get loaded up. The proposal will close an existing access which is currently substandard with inadequate visibility displays. The new access and hard standing meets the requirements of the Highway Authority on all but one point. The highways do not want the trailer to overhang the grass verge and would like it further set into the site. to the hedge line. So really, when a car pulls up onto the site, instead of hanging onto the verge, it should be no further back than the edge of the hedge line. However, as officers, we consider what's proposed is acceptable in that sort of terms, given its location within the special landscape area. The parish council supports the application. Attention is drawn to the late representation from Hollywell and the Teessing Parish Commission. The landscape officer has raised concerns regarding the impact on the landscape. However, as officers considered it will have an improvement to the current highway situation. We do note that the impact on the wider landscape, however, in this particular case, we consider the benefits of that outweigh the impact on the wider landscape. The application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I have to say, Catherine, that the word is Hollowell, not Hollywell.
Sorry.
As their county councillor, it would be wrong for me to not tell you. Well, we have a speaker. Mr. Hall is the agent.
I'm not the agent, we're the applicants, we don't have an agent. Good evening. The application drawings that we've submitted are the result of significant amounts of communication between ourselves and the LHA and the landscape officer over the last 8 months in order to reach a sensibly proportioned entrance and turning area that is of benefit to our organic market garden that we are proposing and to the road safety of passing traffic. As Mr. Cadman, who is our planning officer, has stated in his report, there needs to be reasonable compromise between the requirements of the LHA and the landscape officer. And Mr. Cadman has stated that he believes that our proposal is a reasonable compromise between the two objectives of road safety and landscape. I would like to, however, to take this opportunity to directly address some of the concerns of the LHA and the landscape officer. Firstly, we would like to raise to the attention of the committee that the highways officer, Ms. Verity Chilver, states in her objection that tarmac must be used as the material of choice for entrance. There is nothing that states tarmac is the only choice for this purpose in any of the guidance supplied nationally and regionally, including the guidance documents sent by Ms. Chilver herself to the Daventry District Council Planning Department. We can only conclude that tarmac is the personal choice of Ms. Chilver. The guidance says that entrances should be made of materials that do not include gravel, road planings, chippings or loose materials. Therefore, as I'm sure you will agree, concrete more than satisfies the requirement for a hard-bound surface and has been and continues to form field entrances in our region and nationally for many years before and many years to come. It's also important from a cost perspective that we use concrete, as tarmac is 4 times the price to lay. We would like to remind the committee that we are volunteering to relocate this entrance. And we are funding this out of our own rather limited funds as we are starting this market garden from fresh. So concrete is our choice, or unfortunately the entrance relocation will be financially unattainable for us. Now to address the comments from the landscape officer. We agree with highways that there does need to be the ability for the entrance to enable 2 vehicles to enter and exit at the same time. To have one vehicle waiting on the road whilst the other vehicle exit rather defeats the object by potentially encouraging oncoming cars to manoeuvre around the waiting vehicle would be dangerous on the hidden bit. I would like to remind the landscape officer that the site is agricultural land and that this entrance and turning area will already take a sizable chunk out of our growing area, and to add hedging around the turning area, or hard standing as you put it, would cast long shadows down a north-facing slope over the surrounding grazing area and render that area unusable for most of the year. I would, however, like to take this opportunity to tell the committee that as part of our organic rehabilitation of the field, we will be planting over 1,000 metres of perennial hedging within the site for like field blocks. Over 1 acre of woodland at the bottom near the stream, and 18 wildlife ponds. The important point is that we need to have the flexibility to move stuff around as we see fit and not be restricted by the conditions that will strangle our ability to be flexible with our horticultural and livestock needs. And finally, it is worth noting that Stratton Parish Council fully support our supplementary plans, and Teething and Hollowell Parish Council raised no comments or objections, and it's the village of Teton that overlooks our field. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good, and you said Hollowell right as well. Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you. Well, obviously, since I was on the parish council, we always supported and were supportive of rural employment and rural opportunities. We did support previous organic farms, and we benefited from that by the guy coming around and selling door to door those vegetable boxes, which were all organically grown. So I see no reason to put too many conditions onto this. I fully support it. I think officers have got it right with the balance between NCC and what we really need to do, and the size and scope of the business. So I would like to suggest that we support officers' advice as a proposition.
I'll second that, Chair.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Robertson, second.
Nothing to say.
So, sorry, can I just go back? I forgot to say something. Is it a concrete driveway?
That's being proposed.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah,
Better than some. Councillor Elvis.
I would like to second it.
I've already done it.
Catherine's going to come back and tell you about the drive.
Obviously, yes, it's proposed to be concrete, but at the same time, they will have to get us what's called a Section 278 agreement from highways. So they would have to adhere to some respect of tarmac potentially from highways, but that's up to separate.
Yeah, it's not a planning issue, is it?
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think you know, we work in a democracy. It's just the power of people coming and sharing their testimony and thoughts. And I think that this is one case where you know you can feel the energy and looking at the papers, it just benefits the public who may be listening or not. The fact to come here and to support their application. So yeah, I just thought that was so thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else wishing to say anything? We have a proposal that has been seconded, the application be approved. All those in favour, please put your hands up. Yes, unanimous. Thank you very much. That concludes the meeting. And don't forget